Hello everyone, this is Ayşenur Sunum. Today I would like to present my review paper titled The Role of Motivation in Second Language Learning. And here you can see the outline of my study, and I would like to start by mentioning the purpose of the study, which is to discuss the new focus of motivational strategies in foreign language learning, following the developments in communication and technology. And when we look at the outline of my study, well, I can say that it starts with the theoretical framework regarding the importance of motivation in foreign language teaching. And then we see the various motivational models, followed by the motivational challenges and the new motivational strategies. Okay, so I would like to start with the theoretical framework here. Well, when you look at this slide, you can see different types of motivation. But before moving on to the types, I would like to briefly give or define what motivation is. Well, as you all know, it's a very commonly used term in language education. However, it's not easy to agree upon one definition. But the most commonly referred L2 motivation belongs to Gardner, which is as follows: the extent to which an individual works or strives to learn the language because of a desire to do so and the satisfaction experience in this activity. So we can say that the term here is conceptualized in a way to cover the learner motivation and the level of the learner motivation, the will to learn the language, and the actions taken to learn the language. Okay, so now when we look at different types of motivation, the first distinction is between integrative and instrumental motivation. Integrative motivation is necessary to be accepted by another community or to be able to communicate with that society. Well, in other words, we can say that integrative motivation refers to how a learner adapts to or integrates himself or herself into the culture of the target language, while the instrumental motivation is about professional or academic goals. Of course, there is such a distinction, but it doesn't mean that the person has to have only one type. It's possible to see a person with both types of motivation. Anyway, when we move on to another common distinction regarding motivation, we see it between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Well, actually, the distinction here is very similar to the one we have just talked about. I mean, the integrative and the instrumental motivation. In extrinsic motivation, the reason is outside the person in language learning, while in intrinsic motivation, the purpose is more related to the person. So it refers to one's, inner willingness, let's say. Okay. So when we move on to our next slide, we see the motivational models here. And there were also various models and frameworks used to describe L2 motivation, which is really a very complicated composition. Well, we can say that one of the well-known models belongs to Gardner, and within his motivational model, we can see that L2 motivation is more about how much an individual works or struggles while learning the language. I mean, as she or he wishes to learn the language or feels satisfied as a result of carrying out that activity. So what makes Gardner's model important is that, here the motivation is considered as an energy center that covers one's desire, the satisfaction, and struggle. And this is a socio-psychological perspective, we can say. And another important motivational model belongs to Clement and his colleagues. And here we see the importance of linguistic self-confidence. It really has an important place in their model. And also communicative competence is a key concept in this motivational model. We can say that this model suggests the attitudes of learners regarding self-confidence lay the basis of learners' motivation. This is how I can summarize their model. And then we come to the third one, the third commonly referred framework. This is a self-determination theory belonging to DC and Ryan. And they try to explain the factors affecting human needs, motivation, and welfare in a very systematic way. And here we also, see a reference to extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. This is, two different types of motivation form the basis of DC and Ryan's theory. And the last but not the least framework belongs to Journey, who has developed a comprehensive motivational framework. And this framework has a focus on 3 components, which are language level, student level, and also learning situation. Okay. Now, when we move on to the motivational strategies, we also see that it's not that much easy to define the motivational strategies, but here you can see a very widely referred definition. Okay, so in this respect, we see that there were 2 types. The motivational strategies can be grouped under 2, teacher-related and learner-related ones. So yeah, we can see that when the key role motivation plays is considered, it is utmost significance to adopt strategies to enhance motivation while learning and teaching a language. But in today's changing world, we should keep this in mind because a lot has changed, and this also has some implications, reflections on motivational strategies also. And yeah, when we look at the groups in terms of motivational strategies, the first one is on the role of teachers in helping learners to feel motivated through the techniques they use. While the second one is more about the individually used strategies I mean, the strategies learners use to regulate their own motivational processes. And here, of course, how teachers act in the teaching process affects how students approach the subject, what is learned, which puts, which shows the importance of teachers in terms of motivating their learners. And yeah, here I would like to talk about the changes in the recent decades. As we all know, language learning and teaching has undergone a very fundamental change. So the role of teachers, the role of students have changed. This also requires a change in motivational strategies to be adopted. And here maybe the one of the most outstanding change is in the understanding of the role of teachers and the role of students, the role of learners. That's why it is important to give learners opportunities to make their own choices, have a word about their own learning process, become more active participants while in the learning process, which all refer to the importance of autonomous learning, which means the motivational strategies should cover. Okay, so when we come to the last part of my presentation, I can shortly say that, yeah, motivation is the driving force in learning the target language. And, the sources of motivation can be various, from psychological to cultural, even economic. And learning activities, the materials, techniques, learning environment, they all differ, and they have changed a lot because of their recent changes. And technology is an indispensable part of this new learning and teaching environment. That's why this should also be kept in mind. We can also say that the relationship students establish with the learning process, of course, are still in need of encouragement. Yeah, although learner autonomy is at the center of the new strategies, it should not be ignored that teachers also have a responsibility, even more responsibility in keeping learners motivated in this continuously changing world. I guess that's all I can say. Thank you very much for listening to me.